Welcome. This is Money Heart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing healing money wounds. My guest is Emily Wilcox. She's a crystal loving, coffee drinking money magnetizer and business coach. Emily's mission is to help female entrepreneurs uncover their money wounds and heal them in community so that more money flows to embodied women and collectively uplevels the planet. After building two seven-figure businesses in the masculine energy of hustle and grind, Emily decided to ditch the belief that it had to be hard. She put those businesses in the hands of her capable team so she could dive deeper and amplify what she truly loves, the inner work. She uses energetics, woo-woo, and a sprinkle of strategy to help women call in more money, joy, ease, and play. Emily, welcome to Money Heart.
Thank you so much, Camille. I'm happy to be here.
I am so glad you're here. And man, that was a lot of stuff that you had in there. I'm so excited to talk about this concept. I want to hear about everything, what businesses you had, how you got inspired to make this shift, all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting because your story is very different from a lot of people's. There are so many people who start out in poverty and the lack mindset, and they're like, oh, I got to switch my thinking so I can make some money. You actually went the other way to where you were highly successful, but still figured out you might prefer to switch and do things differently. Kind of walk us through it. Start at the beginning. Where did you start here?
Yeah. And I'm so glad that there are so many money teachers out there, right? Because we don't all have the same story. And the fact that I already had seven-figure businesses, I've never worried where a meal was going to come from. Like that may not resonate with some people. And I totally respect that. And I'm so grateful that there are stories of people who came from extreme poverty and homelessness and all of these other things as well. So yeah, for me, I built an e-commerce business and an agency, a consulting kind of agency, and hit seven figures with each. Now, I still was in scarcity, by the way. And so I think this is a common misconception. And it's one of the sneakiest money beliefs that actually gets in our way, which is this idea that once I get to here, whatever here is, $10,000 a month, $100,000 in the bank account, a seven-figure business, then I'm going to feel successful and worthy and like I have it all together and it can't be taken from me and safe and blah, blah, blah. And what we'll find when we don't do the inner work is that we hit those money goals and it's like, wait a second. I still don't feel super abundant. I still don't feel like I have it all together. I still don't feel safe. Right. And so for me, I was maybe a slow learner in the sense that it wasn't until I hit a first $100,000 cash month in the agency that finally the jig was up. And it was like, okay, how much longer am I just going to set a new goal thinking that something external is going to make me feel different? Right. And when am I actually going to start tending to my inner environment?
Yeah. I love that because it really is one of those where we so often set the milestone. Oh, once I make my first 100,000 or once I, get my retirement savings up to 500,000 or whatever it is, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be happy. Yeah. Once I can buy that car, buy that house, or, have this appointment every week, I'm going to be happy. And it doesn't always work that way. So then you have to move the goalpost because that one didn't work. Oh, well, I must have missed it. It's not 100,000, it's 200,000, and then you just keep moving it. So it sounds like you rocked it out. You hit it 100,000 in a month. It sounds like, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'd be happy with that. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Right, exactly. Because the thing is, and in that business where it was $100,000 cash month, like we also had a payroll, I think of maybe 50,000 at the time. And, other stressors and things. So often when we hear someone else's money story, we just sort of imagine that it's all gravy. Like, oh, it's just $100,000 flowing into the personal bank account. No,
Yeah.
no. This
No.
is $100,000 flowing into the business bank account, of which I have employees who pay their mortgages, who their entire livelihood depends on us being able to pay them on time. Like there's stress, there's responsibility, and so the amount that's left doesn't always feel abundant, but also what we're having to do to get it maybe isn't the trade-off that we imagine when we look at someone else's business from the outside.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of those interesting things that, sometimes I see people on Instagram posting, how much their business made this month and everything's so fabulous. And when you dig down into it, any entrepreneur knows you have costs. And
Yeah.
whether that's materials or contractors or employees or supplies or rent, or all of these things cost you. Taxes, might want to save for that once in a while.
Yeah.
All of these things are going to be expensive. So what are you actually walking away with at the end of the day? And is that compensating you for your time or your lack of sleep or your stress level or any of those other things that happen? So what was your experience? Like that happened, you've got the stress of the employees weighing on you. What else was going on?
Yeah. So for me, it really was more turning inward and doing more of the inner work, because what I realized is that I was projecting a lot onto money in my relationship with money, in a way that wasn't healthy or helpful, because money couldn't really give me a feeling of safety or a feeling of success or a feeling of worthiness. And so diving deeper into creating that for myself. And you hit on something really important when you talked about moving the goalposts. And I had this realization where the distance between where we're at now and where we want to be, this in between, is actually our whole lives. Because as soon as we get to whatever the goal is, there's already something new that we're dreaming into. We're always moving the goalposts. And by the way, it's not a bad thing to move the goalposts. Like, I really think that, like, as human beings, like, we're meant to be industrious. We're meant to have growth and evolution. And so it's a good thing that we're not just like, I've reached the pinnacle. There's nothing else left to do in this life. Like, ta-da.
Yeah. And I'm 45, so we're done.
Right.
Like, whoa, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good thing. There's nothing wrong with moving the goalpost, but what's wrong with it is if we perceive the distance between where we're at and where we want to be as lack, then we will perceive our entire lives as lack.
Mm.
And that was the thing I couldn't reconcile. It was like, if I'm putting off my feelings of safety or my feelings of happiness or my feelings of success or my feelings of worthiness until a later date, all of a sudden I could see this game that I was playing. And it was like, well, that day is never going to come. Mm-hmm. So who am I being on this journey between where I'm at now and whatever the next thing is that I'm working toward?
Yeah.
And that is all inner game.
Right.
It's all inner game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you go ahead. Go ahead. I know you touched on this word, who am I being, but go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. So in my process of really getting clear on money's role in my life, and also where I needed to take personal responsibility and clean up my relationship with money, I started getting really interested in other people's thoughts and opinions and views on money. And, you talked about how people will share their highlight reel. I made this much. And you're like, but how much did you actually make? I have a whole podcast that's really devoted to financial transparency. So, like, I interview female entrepreneurs and I'll ask them, how much are you making? How much of that do you take home? Like, I'm so curious. And I think many of us are. And this lack of financial transparency is not serving any of us. Mm-hmm. The fact that we don't talk about money, and not just like the actual ins and outs, but how we feel about it and how we think, it's not serving us. It's the reason that we walk around as adults and we're still making decisions, typically subconsciously, based on some weird thing that happened in childhood where we decided that we're bad with money, or that money is going to abandon us, or we can't trust ourselves. It's like we're walking around, we look like adults, and on the inside, we're these little kids that are running the show because we're so triggered and we're so wounded. Why? Because we've never actually looked at it, and it's such a taboo topic that it just goes unexplored.
Right. Yeah. You just hit on the reason I started the show is because I was working in financial services, and it was so hard for some people to have a conversation about money.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could help them if they could just spend 5 minutes telling me honestly what was going on. Yeah. But if you can't even talk about the money to save your own money situation, I'm like, okay, there's something is broken here. We need help. We need help. And so that's why this entire Money Heart podcast got started, was we need more people talking about money, and let's just do it.
We do. Yay. And I'm so glad excited that you're doing it. It's such a service to the world.
Thank you. And I'm thrilled to hear more about your podcast. So I'll make sure to put that in the show notes for people on that financial transparency, and female entrepreneurs like sharing, hey, I made this much and I took home this much and I got all these expenses and stuff happening, because entrepreneurs don't like to talk about that either. It's almost the same situation as, people don't want to share their salary, or people don't want to share what their business made, and they get all weird about it. So yeah. I love that. Yeah. So when you started making the shift, what did you do? Like, how did you get your brain to switch and stop operating in scared little kid mode and like adult a little bit?
Yeah. So it was a lot of inner child healing and a lot of nervous system repatterning. And as I did the work for myself, and then I moved into more of a coaching role. And so I started talking to so many other women entrepreneurs and getting this behind the scenes look of what's it actually like? How do they actually feel about money? What do they actually think about it? And what are those limiting beliefs? And out of that, my brain, probably with the help of universe, if you believe in all of that, categorized this into 6 different money wounds. And it really helped me to understand these patterns of behavior and the way that typically a childhood wound ends up projecting on our relationship with money, and the ways that it can play out in our adulthood as well.
Yeah. Well, that leads us in to tell us what these are. What are the 6, just briefly?
Yeah. So we'll just do like a quick rundown. So there's the money shame wound, which is I'm unworthy of money. Mm-hmm. The evil money wound, having lots of money will make me bad, or I'll have to sacrifice my morals in order to get more money. Right. The money trust wound, I don't trust myself with money. I'm going to make a bad decision with it. Hard money wound, I have to work harder to make more money. The safe money wound, I don't feel safe without a nice chunk of change in the bank, or I'll feel safe once I have more money. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then the disappearing money wound, which is I don't trust money. Money is always leaving. I'm afraid that money is going to abandon me.
Interesting. I hear that evil one so much.
Do you?
I do. People, I've heard it said, and I don't know if people say it around me because I'm always the one who speaks up against it. So maybe, like you said, the universe just puts people near me that need to hear, we need more people in this world with lots of money that are good people. You go be good people and have lots of money. Get on that. Yes. So I just feel like that's one that's been circling my world lately, not because I think it, but because other people near me think it. And maybe they just need me to tell them it's okay to be rich. Just go. Yeah. Do it.
Well, the evil money wound is in the water. It's like, it's in every movie we watch. It's like the villain is always like the evil rich villain, but the happy ones are the ones that are like, they're poor, but they're humble, but they have each other. And so it's like, we get this idea in our heads that it's like an either or.
Right.
And for many of us, it's a protection mechanism in childhood where it's like, oh, it hurts so bad to actually want this thing that I can see that someone else has, and I don't think I'm ever going to get it. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather make up a story like, I don't even want that. Like, look how they behave. Look how they act. Their family's not even happy. Ugh, they're so stuck up. And it's like sneaky, sneaky, sneaky deep down. It's like, oh, I'm actually just jealous, but I don't think that I can ever have what they have. And so it feels better to just reject the whole thing.
Right. Right. I love the way that you explain that so easily, because I've heard that so many times, and from adults saying like, oh, they're just so stuck up. Oh, like, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, we see something we love and don't think we could have. So we're just gonna
Yeah.
be mad about it first.
And by the way, with that one, like it's really our own judgments that end up standing in the way of us stepping into more wealth. So if
Yeah.
you're someone that's really looking to call more wealth into your life, it's an opportunity to kind of clean that up. Because, if I'm the kind of person where on the freeway, a guy pulls up next to me in an exotic car, and the first thing I think is like, ugh, what a douche. It's like, am I really going to be a match for driving an exotic car?
No,
Probably not. And
probably
probably because I'm going to take myself out of the game because I'm so worried about the judgments.
right.
Well, why are the judgments so present for me? Oh, because they're inside of my own head. So a fun
Yeah.
little game to play is like drive through the nicest neighborhood and like tell yourself a different story about the people that live in those houses. Like, oh, I wonder like what impact they've made. I wonder how many people this family has helped. I wonder if they invented some kind of technology that I use in my life. Like, I wonder how they're giving back to our community. All of those things are as equally possible as them all being like evil, terrible people.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe even more so.
Maybe even more so. Like, can we believe that people are good?
Right. Like, oh, that person, maybe they're a brain surgeon. And oh, that person, maybe they invented something like you said. And this person, maybe they helped, 1,000 people do whatever. So yeah, that's super cool. I love that. Okay, I totally went out of order, but let's just keep going.
Yeah.
So I'll jump back to number one, the money shame one, feeling unworthy. So is this just I don't deserve to have that kind of money?
Yeah. So I see this one a ton, particularly with female entrepreneurs, where we feel like, oh, who am I? Why would they hire me when they could hire someone else? I don't know. I don't really think I'm that special. And so we repel a lot of money. Like we actually make it really hard for people to find us and pay us. Typically, this will show up in your pricing as well. So you may way underprice your services because you just don't feel like you're worthy of a higher exchange. And it also shows up in an over delivering. So it's like somehow someone actually pays you $1,000 for your services and you're just like, oh my God, I just got $1,000. Now I need to like do back handsprings for this person. I need to be available 24/7. Maybe I can go over and like wash their dog in addition to, giving them the service that they paid me for.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So it's really limiting. It really limits. It repels money. And then the money that comes in actually doesn't feel that good.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what I talk about in healing money wounds. And I have a whole program on this because it truly is repatterning our nervous system. The first time I got an $18,000 pay in full, I was excited for maybe 5 minutes. And I felt then so much anxiety. And the word that best described how I felt was beholden. I felt beholden to that client. Like I really noticed the wounded masculine energy of just wanting to immediately overthink and overdo and just jump into action and prove to them that this was a worthy investment.
Yeah.
When that's how $18,000 feels in my body, do you think that I'm a match for having that happen every day or multiple times a day?
No, it's not
No.
happening. Right?
No, it's like, it's actually a real kindness that universe and these universal laws sort of keep it at bay. Cause it's like, I'm not ready for it. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel celebratory. It doesn't feel normal. It's putting my body into a triggered and a heightened response. So can I heal that first?
Mhm. Do you ever encourage people to celebrate really small payments, like anything that comes
Yes.
in? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. There's two different sides to kind of repatterning our nervous system, right? One part is going from bad to more neutral,
Mhm.
right? So some of my clients tend to be really avoidant with their money. And so they don't look at their bank accounts, they don't look at their credit card statements,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And it's like, why? Because in your body, it feels like you're bracing for impact. It feels like you're going to find a scary surprise.
yep,
And so, in that sense, going from that to celebration feels like a bridge
too
too
far.
far.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's like, can we get to a place where it actually feels a little less scary, a little more neutral? It's just numbers on a screen. And then on the other side of it, yeah, when money does come in, even if it's just finding a little bit of money on the sidewalk or the random, like, you got $7.11 in a check from some class action settlement that you never knew
right.
you were a part of. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, is the $7 going to change our lives?
probably not.
No. But can we celebrate the fact that we just had surprise money come? We didn't have to work for it.
Yes.
And it's still money.
Yeah,
Can that
yeah,
feel good? Can we
yeah.
celebrate? Can we
Can we just
dance
be happy
around? Can
about
we
that?
make it a thing?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I found well, I've had clients do it so many times. They're like, "Oh, I don't even open the statements." I'm like, "Well, this explains a lot about why your credit score is so low." Because they're like, "Oh, I have really bad credit." That's not at all what I do, but I've had people show up and they're like, "You do money things, right? Help with my credit." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I can answer a few questions. I'm not an expert in that, but I can answer them." And I say, "Well, what are your statements showing you?" "Oh, I don't look at those." Okay. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I see where we may have gone off the rails. If we're not looking, we have no idea what's happening. So
Yeah.
we can't make any decisions, good or bad, because we don't know what's going on. So yeah, just getting to that neutral spot of money shows up. Huh, money showed up. All right. Like, even if that's it, we're not having a celebration. I love that so much more than money showed up. I don't know, I have to do something and then I got to take care of the thing. And like, you feel obligated. And so,
Yes.
then money's like, oh, not doing that again. Sorry to bother you.
Totally. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
when we personify money and we imagine money being in a relationship with us, we can start to see like how neurotic we're being. And it's like, oh yeah, I wouldn't really want to be in a relationship with me either.
Right. Yeah. I might break up. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's jump to the next one on the trust, money trust, where you don't trust yourself and you think you're always going to make bad decisions. I know I struggled with this for a while because I'm a serial entrepreneur and I've had multiple businesses and they didn't always work out great. I messed
Yeah.
up sometimes. Um, and then I realized, you know what? Some of those mistakes were my biggest learning opportunities. And now I don't have to do that again. I got it out of the way. But it was really hard then. So tell me how people can kind of work on the trust issues that they have.
Yeah. So this one often brings up a lot of like damsel in distress energy. Like
Oh,
there's a part of us that just wants like a white knight to come in and rescue and save the day. And so you might notice that like you're kind of asking your partner for permission on things that you don't really need permission for, or maybe you're like going to buy a car and for whatever reason you find yourself on the phone with your mom being like, I don't know if I should buy this one or not. And you're like, okay, well, that's weird. Like, why am I a grown adult in so many categories? And yet I'm like kind of looking for my mom's approval or stamp of, permission before
mhm.
I make this purchase. So that's like some symptoms of a money trust wound. And yeah, we've all made mistakes with money. That's like part of engaging with money. It's sort of like saying like, I don't trust myself with food because I overate that one time, or I like forgot to eat lunch yesterday. Geez, I totally can't trust myself with food. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. Yeah, so the other night I had nachos like 2 nights in a row, and apparently I'm only allowed to do that once. But it would be weird if I said never eating nachos again in my life.
Yeah. Oh, I can't be trusted with nachos.
Can't be trusted with nachos no more ever for the entire rest of my life because I had them back to back and, felt a little heartburn that second day. So it's
right. Totally. But often, again, and this is why it makes sense when we really understand some of the childhood wounding that we go through, because as kids, we don't understand the bigger perspective. And so sometimes relatively benign things, they sort of get in because as kids, we don't have that discerning filter. So like everything just sort of goes into the subconscious and we take it as truth. So you may have gotten a birthday card with a $10 bill in it and you lost the $10 and your parents kind of finger wagged you and kind of gave you a little lecture on how it's important to know where your money is and to keep it safe. And then the next time you got your hands on your money, on some money, they kind of reminded you, remember the last time you lost that money, so you need to be really careful with it. And all of a sudden you've adopted this idea of like, oh yeah, I can't be trusted with money. I have to be really careful with it because what if I do something wrong or I make the wrong move?
Right. Yeah.
When really, from an adult perspective, we would see that it wasn't that big of a deal. And oh, by the way, your parents have lost $10 before too. Like it's just part of being a human and interacting with money. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to lose some. You're going to find some that never was yours to begin with.
Right.
And it's all okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And, when you put it in those terms now, when we think about things and we talk about it like, oh, that, $10 is not a massive amount, or, when I joke about the nachos, then it sounds silly. But like you said, when you're a kid and you're building these concepts, everything is going in and you have no experience to use as a filter. So it's nothing. And that, what your point about the parents just really made me think like, oh my gosh, did I get that right as a parent? Like,
am I screwing up my own children?
On my kids? Do I need to do some undoing here? Because I don't think that I've done that, but that sounded like maybe it could have been me of like, oh, remember before, so maybe you want to be more careful this time. Like I might have given that talk. I'm not sure if it was the right talk to give. So now if you were a parent, what would be a better choice to not create a money trust wound in your child?
So I really think about like, well, what would I say to myself? To my own inner child, right? To what would I want to say to the part of me that sometimes feels like I don't have it all together with money? Well, I would want to say like, it's okay to make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. Even the mistakes are lessons. Like this is how we get better. This is how we learn. You get to have lots more opportunities. Like this isn't the end of your story with money. Yeah. And so all of those things that I would want to say to myself, like, right, we get to go say that to our kids and we get to have those repair conversations.
Okay, I feel like now the next time something money happens with my kids, I might just call you and be like, here, just talk to Emily for like she'll tell you it's okay.
I'll give you a pep talk.
You give the pep talk and I'll be like, so we're cool now, great. Yeah. All right. So the must work hard for money. How do we kind of undo some of that where we're just like, oh, I must grind it out or it's never going to happen?
Yeah. So my favorite hack for this one is to replace the effort for income equation to impact for income.
Yes.
It's something that our brain can pretty easily get behind because if I'm Taylor Swift and I want to make more money this year, am I going to release 9 albums instead of 1?
Maybe.
Or I could try that
and
like see how it goes.
Yeah.
Or could I maybe just like write the best album of my life and the more people that listen to it and stream it and the more people that buy concert tickets, I make more money, but I did the same amount of work. I'm just impacting more. Right.
Yeah. Because you did better work.
We don't ask ourselves the right questions. We immediately, when we check our bank account or when we start to feel a little unsteady around money, we're like, what do I need to do? That's always the go-to question, right? Which has built into it this concept of a hard money wound. What more effort do I need to make? And sometimes there is more effort, right? It's not that there's anything wrong with that. What I'm here to do is help women and people in general notice when they're acting from a wounded place versus a sovereign place. So I have no problem with you taking more action, but I would much prefer that you do it from your sovereignty than doing it from the wound. And by the way, you'll be much happier with the outcome. And so looking at it and saying, okay, is this my hard money wound speaking? Is the hard money wound just saying like, we got to do more and more and more? What are all the things? How do we do more to make more?
Yeah.
Can I ask myself a different question? How can I impact more people with my work?
Right.
How can I do the same amount and reach more?
Right. You're reminding
that might be
me
a head
of,
scratcher for us because we have
it
not
might.
practiced asking ourselves those questions. But when we start asking different questions, our brain gets to work on that. And the next day, you might have a totally amazing idea come through because you took a beat and you asked yourself a different question.
Yes. Our brain cannot let go of a question. Like,
No.
if you ask the right question, you'll figure out the answer, which is awesome. It's like such a great hack. Like you called it a hack. I love that. It's such a great way to think of it. It's like just ask a different question and your brain will get stuck on a new question instead of the old question.
Totally.
What you were saying is reminding me of the book called The Go-Giver. I don't know if you know that book at all.
Yeah.
The law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So simple math, serve more people or do a better job and you'll have more money. And it's really easy. It doesn't have to be harder, just quality. And
that's the thing. And when we look at the people that are making the most money, we can see that they're not doing more for it.
Right.
So it's like we know intuitively that the equation breaks down somewhere, but somehow we think that that doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, no, it's only over there.
Yeah.
Not here.
It's only on planet wealth where you don't have to work harder for more money. Right. But on my planet hustle, I do.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so the safety one, that I need a chunk to feel safe. If I don't have, X amount in my bank account or wherever, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with this one, there's a real opportunity to create some internal safety and do, again, like some repatterning. Affirmations can be helpful. Like the great thing about money is we transact with it all the time. And so we always have new opportunities to try it on for size, right?
Yeah.
And so every time money is leaving, right, which might feel very uncomfortable to someone with a safe money wound, because, speaking as someone who has this or has had it, we can have a little bit of hoarder energy around money. But allowing ourselves to really repattern that it's okay for money to go and that it actually grows through circulation, that it can come back to us. Like, if you think about it, unless you're like lighting dollars on fire, the money is never actually gone.
Right.
It just left your account. It just left your hands. So actually that same dollar can come back to you, or it can come back to you multiplied. And, the perfect example of a safe money wound is Warren Buffett. I watched the documentary on him, and, the guy is worth billions. And every day he would get up and he would go through the McDonald's drive-through on his way to work. And he would determine which of the meals he was going to pick based on how the stock market was performing that day.
Huh.
So it wasn't like, okay, let me check in with my body and see what actually feels good and what I desire. It was like, do I need to save 17 cents and just get the Egg McMuffin instead of the other thing I really want because of the stock market?
Yeah. And which is so odd because one, you're already shopping at McDonald's. The expense is not drastic.
Right.
We've pretty much made our budget fairly low for breakfast here, not spending a lot. And then in the grand scheme of his investments is not getting a hash brown going to make up for whatever was just lost because the stock market dropped a couple of points.
Right.
Probably not equal money there.
No.
Like 59 cents versus like several $100,000. Probably not the same.
But this is the thing, is that our wounds are not logical.
Right.
They are stored trauma and they are triggered responses. And so that's why when we can add a little humor and levity to the situation, like it helps us to put a little distance between me and my money wound. So
Mhm.
it's like, it makes no sense. Like
Right.
the dude is one of the richest guys on the planet and he's got a safe money wound that's completely running the show. Like he could buy every McDonald's on the planet, but instead he's trying to save 17 cents. And it's like,
Yeah.
what?
Right.
When it's him, we can see how ridiculous it is, but we all also
We
have our
all,
own money wounds that are
yeah,
running the show on things and we're being equally ridiculous. And it's not logic that's going to do the trick here.
yeah.
It's actually changing the way that we feel in our bodies about money.
Right. This is one that my husband and I ran into. So he and I have different money wounds, and I had this safe one where I felt like I just had to save everything. Like I had to save everything. And it was painful to spend on something, like to buy a thing, to do a trip, it
Yeah.
hurt to do that. And he had other stuff, but that wasn't one of them. He was
Yeah.
like, well, you might as well spend it because you don't know what's going to happen. So have some fun, live a little. And so we had to both work to where he was like, might be good to have some money in savings. That's probably useful for emergencies. And I had to work on, it's totally okay to enjoy your vacation. Don't spend the whole vacation fretting about how much money you spend on vacation. Like save up, budget,
Totally.
go have the fun, go do it. That's what you planned for. Spend the money for the thing you intended. So it was a shift for sure. And it was not a fast shift. It took me a while to get that sorted out, but did a fabulous vacation
1000%.
so
And
yeah.
same dynamic in my marriage.
Really?
And in many marriages, there's the same dynamic. So it's not necessarily gender specific, but
Right.
it makes sense because those of us that are a little uptight and don't feel free around money, we're attracted to the person that feels more free and feels more alive and feels more creative and feels more playful. Like there's a part of us that wants that.
Yeah.
And so it feels attractive in our partner.
Right.
But then there's also the part of us that's like, but stop doing that. You're freaking me out right now.
Totally. Exactly right. Exactly right.
And then in our partners, they kind of like the fact that like, okay, there actually is somebody paying attention to things.
Somebody is watching the books.
Stability.
Yeah. Yeah. They're keeping a track of it and they probably put some in savings and yeah, we're good. They've got it.
Right. Right.
But also lighten up a little. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure they feel that way about us. So yeah. The last one was the disappearing money's going to leave me. I'm not really familiar with this one because I don't think I've ever experienced it. So like walk me through the disappearing.
Yeah. Usually if you have the safe money wound, you don't have the disappearing money wound. Like it's either or.
Yeah.
Often this is a childhood trauma around abandonment that gets projected on money. So if everything's going along fine in your life and one day parents get divorced or dad leaves or everything seems to be going fine and someone that you thought was going to be in your life for a long time, the phone rings and it turns out they've died, right? Like it's this feeling of the rug getting pulled out from under you. Things are fine and all of a sudden they are not fine anymore.
Gotcha.
It's all gone, right?
Yeah.
And so when that gets projected on money, there's this feeling of like, what if it all crumbles? What if it all goes away? And so there tends to be like highs and lows with this one. My clients that have a disappearing money wound, like they can manifest like nobody's business. Like, oh, $30,000 came in, but it's like, it's gone just as quick because in their nervous system, when they see a large chunk of money sitting in the bank account, it actually feels scary. For us safe money people, we don't understand that because we're like, no, more money feels better.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you've got a disappearing money wound or a money trust wound that's running the show, it actually feels scarier because if I told you you can build a building as high as you want and next week we're going to demo it.
Yeah.
Are you going to reach for the stars? Are you going to try to
build a big building?
No. It's like, if we think it's all going to go away, we would rather have that happen on a small scale.
Yeah.
because it's like a protection
It's
mechanism.
less damage. Yeah. Damage
And
control, I guess.
so
Yeah.
when the subconscious is running the show with this one, you'll see people where it's like they finally get a nice financial boon and then the car breaks down or the roof needs to be repaired. Because again, the subconscious mind always gets what it wants. And so when it's running the show and the wound is in charge, it's going to create circumstances to make the money leave.
Yeah.
Because it actually feels better to have less in the account.
Yeah. Yeah. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
What are you most excited about right now?
Oh, I've got so many things I'm excited about. I've got a couple like luxury VIP days coming up for clients. We've got an October retreat that's got one spot left. And then I'm actually, after this talk, feeling so fired up about my money wound medicine program. So if you've been feeling fired up about this to anyone listening and you really want to dive into money healing, that is absolutely the best place to start.
I love that. And so if you want to get in touch with Emily or find out about her program, jump on her website, emilywilcox.com, or you can just get on Instagram and slide into her DMs at m.makes.money. So I love that. That's such a great handle.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you as well to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. I'm a business optimization coach, financial educator, author, and speaker. You can contact me and find out what I'm up to through my website, CamilleDiaz.com, and follow me on social media at Cam Unfiltered. Be sure to follow Money Heart at Money Heart Show, and our website is moneyheartshow.com. Emily, would you like to share today's money mantra?
Yes. Money is easy. Money is fun. I love money and money loves me.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.